All right, let's get right into it. We're going to explore something that I think is pretty fascinating: how the money, the actual capital behind real estate development, ends up shaping the soul of the places we live and work. We're talking about more than just bricks and mortar here. We're talking about culture.
So have you ever had this feeling? You're driving through a new part of town, maybe a new subdivision, and you get this weird sense of déjà vu. It feels like you could be in Phoenix or Dallas or anywhere, really. Well, that feeling is not an accident. And the reason why is exactly what we're digging into.
And boom, there it is. That's a quote from developer Austin Tunnel, and it cuts right to the heart of the issue. The idea is that the kind of money you use dictates the kind of place you build. So, if we want to understand why our buildings look the way they do, we've got to follow the money.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's follow the money. Because this is where you'll find this fundamental clash between two totally different ways of thinking about how we build our world. You know, it's easy to blame zoning laws or complicated building codes for why everything looks so bland. And yeah, those can definitely be part of the problem, but the real roadblock, the biggest one by a long shot, is financial. It all boils down to where the capital comes from. And that brings us to these two opposing forces. On one side, you've got massive institutional capital. Think giant funds. They're looking for commodities, predictable, cookie-cutter projects that look great on a spreadsheet and can be copied and pasted anywhere. On the other side, you have these values-driven developers. They're trying to create something unique, something resilient, something built for actual human beings. So, if that's the problem, who's actually out there trying to break the mold? Let's take a look at a real-world example of a builder who's trying to do things completely differently. So meet Austin Tunnel. He's the founder of a company called Building Culture, and his mission is pretty straightforward: to build a more beautiful and resilient world. And he had a huge realization. To build differently, he had to fund his projects differently. So his goal became to skip the faceless institutions and find partners who actually share his vision. And this is the key. It's a shift from being purely transactional to being relational. You're not just a number in some giant real estate investment trust, a REIT. No, you're an actual partner. You know the team, you believe in this specific project, and you share the same values. It's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so this all sounds really good in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in practice? Well, that brings us to a very real project with a very real financial hurdle that they're facing right now.
The project is called Townsend. The vision is for a mixed-use, walkable neighborhood right in the Oklahoma City area. Think homes, local businesses, public squares, all designed at a comfortable, human scale. This is the real-world proving ground for this whole values-driven idea. And here's the number they need to make it happen: $5 million. Now, that might sound like a lot of money, but in the world of institutional real estate, it's actually pretty small. For a project like this, though, it's a huge hurdle that has to be cleared with the right kind of partners. And look at this. They are so close. They've already pulled together over $3.6 million, which is 73% of their goal. All the approvals are done, permits are in hand. I mean, they are right on the verge of breaking ground. They just need to close that final gap. So you might be thinking, hey, if they just need more investors, why can't I just chip in a few bucks? Well, that's where we get into the rules of the game, the legal stuff that decides who gets to take part in opportunities like this. And the key term you need to know is accredited investor. For a long time, the SEC has had rules in place to protect everyday folks from super risky private deals. And historically, the way they decided who could handle that risk was based on wealth. Basically, you needed a net worth over $1 million or a consistently high income. Now, things have opened up a little. A law from 2012 called the Jobs Act is the whole reason a developer like Austin can even publicly talk about this deal. But here's the catch. While he can tell everyone about it, he's still only allowed to accept money from those accredited investors. But here's the big takeaway for everyone listening. Even if you're not an accredited investor, you can still play a huge part. How? By sharing this project with people you know who might get it, who might resonate with the mission. And think broadly here. The people who've invested so far, they're not all real estate people. They're doctors, lawyers, local business owners, people who want their money to build something that matters. So we've talked about the rules as they are today, but it's worth looking ahead. Because the very definition of who gets to invest in their own community, well, that might be about to change. You can see a really hopeful trend line here. Before 2012, this kind of public fundraising was just flat out illegal. The Jobs Act opened the door just a little crack.
But now, there's legislation being proposed that could create a whole new path to becoming an investor, one based on knowledge, not just how much money you have. Imagine taking a test to prove you know your stuff. That could be a total game changer. At the end of the day, after all the talk about capital and regulations and investment decks, it really all boils down to this one simple, powerful idea. It's not about making a quick buck. It's about building something with lasting value, something our kids and their kids will cherish. It's about building something worth keeping.
And that really leaves us with a final question to chew on. This story is about a project in Oklahoma City, but the ideas here are universal. So think about it. What would it take to build a place truly worth keeping, right where you live, in your own community? What kind of vision, what kind of people, and what kind of capital would that require?